Katara was critical in ending the 100-year war. But what if she played a different role, an even bigger role? What if Katara was the Avatar? Let's dive into some alternate timelines to find out.
I guess I was wondering if you had any idea what happened to the Avatar.
But before we begin, we should call out how the Avatar cycle works. This chart displays how each Avatar is born to a certain elemental identity in a fixed order.
They're lined up in a pattern. Air, water, earth, and fire.
That's the Avatar cycle.
Of course.
For Katara to be born an Avatar, the previous Avatar born air nomad, Aang, must have passed away right before Katara was born. Now keep that in mind as we break down our first alternate timeline. What if Aang unfroze early? In the true timeline, Aang was frozen in a failed escape from fate. Avatar Aang didn't want to accept his Avatar destiny.
You ran away.
Next thing I knew, I was waking up in your arms after you found me in the iceberg. What's going on here?
You tell us! How'd you get in the ice?
So what if Aang was unfrozen at least 14 years earlier? If he was not freed by a waterbender with a kind heart, like Katara, he could have instead been found by any number of disadvantageous individuals.
What's going on here?
You will make an excellent gift for my father.
Aang could have been unfrozen by a hungry sea monster, an angry spirit,
My old friend the Avatar.
or he could have been snatched by the Fire Nation. And remember how weak Aang was when he stepped out of that ice?
Once those little critters thaw out, they're useless.
It wouldn't be that surprising if, given a more nefarious discovery, Aang could have been immediately ended.
The Avatar. This must be my lucky day.
Which takes us to the next Avatar in the cycle, a waterbender from the Southern Water Tribe.
So this is the great Avatar.
Katara is born to an even more broken world, one with no air nomads left, and the sudden death of the Avatar. As soon as the Fire Lord found out what happened, Azulon would send all his troops to attack the remaining water tribes, in hopes of hunting down the new Chosen One.
This isn't some little Earth village we can just march into.
The bulk of the Fire Nation army would head north, knowing that the Northern Water Tribe had the strongest defenses.
The Water Tribe is a great nation. There's a reason they've survived 100 years of war.
Southbound, Fire Lord Azulon would probably still send this guy, who failed to kill Katara in the true timeline.
Just let her go, and I'll give you the information you want.
So, the Southern Water Tribe is attacked. The children are all probably targets. And selflessly, Katara's mom, Kaya, might still think that offering herself as prisoner would be enough to save the children. But that army might also be looking for one adult waterbender.
I'm afraid I'm not taking prisoners today.
The army leaves the rest of the village alive. Why do we think that? Because Azulon doesn't seem to have it in him to wipe out an entire nation. Otherwise, he would have already tried to do that, like his father Sozin or his son Ozai.
When the comet last came, my grandfather, Fire Lord Sozin, used it to wipe out the air nomads. Now, I will use its power to end the Earth Kingdom. Permanently.
Avatar Katara survives, thanks to her older brother's big thinking. In the years that follow, Katara trains as best she can, but it's obvious that she needs a real waterbending teacher. Eventually, Sokka and Katara's journey to find an escaped waterbending master leads the team to Hama.
You're from the Southern Water Tribe?
Just like you.
Hama would be happy to teach Avatar Katara, especially if it meant getting payback on the Fire Nation. Though one way or another, there would still be a crisis of morality.
Congratulations, Katara. You're a bloodbender.
With waterbending mastered, they'd head to the Earth Kingdom next. It stands to reason that one of the first Earthbenders they would meet was one they met in the true timeline, someone a little further south and close to the ocean, Haru.
Hello there! I'm Katara. What's your name?
Haru might still be nervous about bending in front of others. His village would still be controlled by the Fire Nation after all, but it's possible that he and Avatar Katara's connection would have gone even deeper in a timeline without Aang.
I'm sorry about what I said earlier. I didn't know about your father.
That's okay. It's funny, the way you were talking back in the store, it reminded me of him.
So Haru tags along, helping the team succeed, similar to what Toph did for Aang. And I know what you're thinking. Why wouldn't Katara just train with Toph? Well, you saw how well they got along at first.
Of course, we could have gotten some sleep earlier if Toph didn't have such issues.
What?
Plus, keep in mind that Appa wouldn't be a resource anymore, so they wouldn't be flying and wouldn't get caught in that mysterious swamp that also provided visions of Toph Beifong, which also means they wouldn't befriend and learn from the swamp benders.
Hey, Hugh, how you been?
You know, scared some folks, swung some vines, the usual.
Next up, Katara would need a firebending master. Who though? Zhang? Katara didn't seem eager to explore that path the first time around.
I think we better keep moving.
Alternatively, Zuko would probably have had a pretty similar life to the true timeline. Ozai might still usurp his father. Iroh might lose his son. Zuko would get burned and sent off to find the Avatar. And through all that, after his own emotionally driven redemption arc, Zuko might still end up in a position to train the Avatar in firebending.
All I want now is to play my part in ending this war. And I know my destiny is to help you restore balance to the world.
Still, there'd be no airbenders left to teach Katara the final element. In this reality, Avatar Aang perished unexpectedly. He was never able to leave any documents or teachings behind.
How could I let this happen?
Sure, Katara could read some old books, maybe discover a hidden library, or stole some ancient airbending scrolls. But we're not confident that Avatar Katara, in this timeline, could master all 4 elements, and therefore would be unprepared to challenge the Phoenix King Ozai. Sozin's comet arrives, and Avatar Katara gives it her all, but without being able to master all 4 elements, she might not even have a chance to drop into the Avatar state. This could all be over before it began.
You're weak, just like the rest of your people. They did not deserve to exist in this world, in my world. Prepare to join them. Prepare to die!
In this timeline, when Aang is unfrozen and then is immediately stricken down, when Avatar Katara is unable to master all 4 elements because there are no airbenders, we think that the Fire Nation would dominate the rest of the world at the hands of the Phoenix King, Ozai.
Oh no!
Sorry, Avatar Katara, but there is another timeline we've considered. What if Aang was never frozen?
There is a storm coming.
What if Aang ran from fate, but not in a way that he fell victim to that vicious storm? Aang could go live on his own small island alone, void of the outside life and his obligations as the Avatar. Sure, someday he'd discover that the entire Air Nomad nation had been wiped out in the hunt for the Avatar. But what if that caused so much trauma that Aang decided to stay hidden on purpose?
Now I know I need to do it alone.
Aang is smart enough to realize that if he revealed himself to the world and tried to stop the Fire Nation and then failed, then that'd mean the Air Nomad culture might be lost for good. So for argument's sake, Aang lives a life of a nomad like he wanted to. But simultaneously, he begins to document everything he knows about airbending. He makes a master manuscript with everything his successor might need to know. Meanwhile, he occasionally ventures out into the world, finding masters of other bending styles and masters them himself. Eventually, with decades of preparation, Avatar Aang seeks out Fire Lord Azulon. The two are now both old men, Aang already in his 90s, but feeling as powerful as ever.
Your days of tyranny are over, Fire Lord. I'm bringing you down.
They have an epic battle, and Avatar Aang wins! He actually wins! The war is over! Right?
Think again.
Because immediately after Aang strips Fire Lord Azulon of his powers, Ozai emerges from the shadows to kill his father, Azulon, and Avatar Aang.
I have all the power in the world!
The Avatar is blamed for the fall of the Fire Lord, and Ozai is hailed a hero for killing the Avatar in return. Elsewhere, in that exact moment, Katara is born to a family who has no clue she's the next Avatar. The Fire Nation sends their armies to both the southern and northern tribes. Similarly to the other timeline, Katara and Sokka escape capture and live in hiding until they're old enough to venture out into the world. Katara turns 14 years old, and just as she concludes that she needs to go and find a real waterbending master, imagine that an elderly Appa arrives with a special book bound with a note that says, "To me from Avatar Aang." Katara and Sokka welcome the beast, who seems to know Katara. The familiarity is welcomed, especially now that they have a method of travel that's much faster than boat or penguin.
Will you go penguin sledding with me?
Katara begins training. She and Sokka perhaps track down Hama or get lost in the foggy swamp. Either way, it'd be much easier to find a waterbending master than the previous timeline, though we are assuming that the Northern Water Tribe has been left clear of any benders. So maybe not that easy. Avatar Katara, Sokka, and old Appa all still team up with Haru. Because even if the foggy swamp gave them visions of Toph, we don't think Katara and Toph would ever actually get along well enough to travel together.
Ever since you joined us, you've been nothing but selfish and unhelpful. What?
But how about a firebending master? Well, Ozai was hailed a hero, and as a reward for avenging his father, he was crowned the Fire Lord. Zuko will have had a very different childhood. Ursa is now even more timid and afraid of her husband, but at least she's still around, right? There'd never be an Agni Kai between father and son, and so Zuko would never get the catalyst for change he needed. Would Zuko ever become Katara's firebending master? Probably not. The most Katara could hope for would be Zhang Zhang.
I will teach you.
At least at this stage, she'd be at the right point in her education to learn firebending, because not only is the Avatar cycle the order in which Avatars are born, it's also the order in which they need to learn the elements. Katara wouldn't be a bad student either. She'd be more patient and attentive, so long as she was able to actually learn.
I finally get to learn from a real master.
Then finally, with Aang's old documents that teach Katara airbending, combined with this spiritual tutoring, Katara becomes a full-fledged Avatar. She's mastered all of the elements just in time for Sozin's Comet. Time to face Ozai. She'd have plenty of skill and power to keep the Phoenix King at bay. And once she's entered the Avatar state,
Fire Lord Ozai, you and your forefathers have devastated the balance of this world, and now you shall pay the ultimate price!
Now here's the big difference between Aang and Katara. Aang was never able to kill, but Katara was ready to do so even when there was no immediate threat. So if Avatar Katara was able to corner Ozai, we think that she'd finish the job, ending the life of the Phoenix King. Elsewhere, Fire Lord Zuko has taken the throne.
All hail Fire Lord Zuko!
In this timeline, he doesn't have his scar, he doesn't hate Ozai, and he didn't have a mind-altering journey of self-discovery with Uncle Iroh. Though Zuko would have had a life of guidance under Ursa, so there would still be that hopeful core of humanity in him, but it'd be buried much deeper than in the true timeline. So would Katara and Zuko work together? Would they build a brighter future for all four nations? Or would Ozai's death push Zuko to the metaphorical dark side? Well, in Possibility 1, Avatar Katara and Fire Lord Zuko bond over the shared trauma of the war. Katara helps Zuko grow into a merciful, kind ruler, and together they discover the history of Roku and Sozin. They rebuild the companionship that their predecessors once had. They fight for a better life as the Avatar and the Fire Lord, a full-circle friendship.
Some friendships are so strong, they can even transcend lifetimes.
But there's an alternate outcome. If Zuko's spite towards Avatar Katara builds, festers like an open wound, then who's to say that a young man whose entire life was guided by hate isn't also a man who might eventually rally the nation against the Avatar, just like his forefathers had done for decades? In this timeline, Katara could just as easily find herself in a second world war against the Fire Nation, one that could become painfully personal.
I'll make sure your destiny ends right then and there, permanently.
But that's all just a theory. There's no way to know what those alternate timelines might actually resemble. What do you think would happen if Katara somehow found herself as the Avatar? Comment below, like and subscribe, and keep watching for all things Avatar.
Okay, you've gone from weird to freakish, Katara.
You mean I did that?